The Dallas Convention Center was buzzing with energy on Saturday afternoon. Workers were carefully stretching the canvas over the boxing ring. The bright red, white, and blue banners fluttered a little as they hung high above the ring, with bold letters that said, Veterans Recovery Fund Charity Exhibition. The sunlight shone through the windows, lighting up the big room, and everything seemed to glow. Leo Vargas, holding the wheels of his wheelchair, rolled slowly into the arena. His grandson Ethan pushed him from behind. Leo was 68 years old. He still wore his old army jacket, the one he had worn during his service in Vietnam. The elbows were worn thin, but all the patches and pins were perfectly in place, each one telling a story of bravery, honor, and loyalty. Ethan carried a small American flag and twirled it between his fingers as they found seats in the veteran section of the arena. "Granddad," Ethan asked quietly, "are you sure these seats are okay? We could sit closer to the ring if you want." Leo smiled softly and adjusted his jacket. "Son, sometimes the best view isn't from the front. From back here, you can see everything without being in the way. And sometimes, the important things happen in the back, not the front." The arena slowly filled with families. Children clutched popcorn and waved foam fingers in excitement. Veterans of all ages took their places, some with canes, some with wheelchairs, all wearing their service hats and medals. Boxing fans wore t-shirts of their favorite champions, and the air smelled like popcorn, sunscreen from the parking lot, and a hint of leather from the boxing gloves. News crews moved around, checking cameras and microphones. Reporters practiced their opening lines, looking nervous under the bright lights. The arena buzzed with chatter, laughter, and the occasional cheer from people arriving late. Outside, the sounds of traffic from Interstate 35 mixed with excitement inside, making the arena feel alive. At exactly 2:47 p.m., the roar of a shiny, custom Lamborghini echoed across the arena. Everyone turned their heads as Marcus Thundercane stepped out, looking like a king leaving his golden carriage. His $5,000 suit glimmered under the bright lights, and gold chains glinted like little suns. He wore designer sunglasses, hiding his eyes, but his wide, smug smile was easy to see from the cheap seats in the back. "Ladies and gentlemen," boomed the announcer, Mike Stevens, his voice loud over the arena speakers. "Please welcome the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Marcus Thunder Rex." Rex walked through the cheering crowd with his team. His promoter, Vinny Salvatore, wore an expensive suit that barely covered his soft middle. His trainer, Sal Romano, carried heavy equipment bags, and 3 huge bodyguards walked like they could handle anyone who dared step in their way. Rex himself was huge, 6 feet 4 inches tall and 240 pounds. He moved like a weapon that could strike at any moment, though he carried it with the confidence of a man who knew everyone was watching. Rex grabbed a microphone from a reporter at ringside. "Your undefeated heavyweight champion is here to put on a show for our heroes," he shouted. He pointed toward the veterans section. "Tonight we're going to raise a lot of money, and I'm going to show you all why they call me Thunder." He flexed for the cameras, muscles bulging under his suit. Then he danced down the aisle, pretending to fight, throwing big punches that whooshed through the air. Heavy metal music started, guitars screaming and drums pounding, shaking the arena so hard the floor seemed to vibrate under everyone's feet. Some veterans in Leo's section looked at each other with raised eyebrows. Ethan whispered, "Granddad, that guy really thinks a lot of himself." Leo nodded. "Some men think being strong means being good, but it usually takes someone even stronger to teach them the difference." Rex threw his suit jacket into the crowd, showing off huge, tattoo-covered arms. Then he climbed into the ring like it was a stage, raising his fists above his head. "Who wants to see Thundercane light up this ring?" he shouted. The crowd roared. Rex's VIP section was full of leather chairs and even champagne, showing off that this wasn't just a fight, it was a performance. But in the back rows, sitting quietly, was Jason Statham. He wore a simple blue flannel shirt, old jeans, and scuffed cowboy boots. At 83 years old, he moved quietly but with confidence. His gray hair was neat, and his hands held the event program. His piercing blue eyes missed nothing. Jason's gaze fell on Leo Vargas. Recognition flashed across his face. Leo and Jason had been soldiers together in Vietnam, watching each other's backs in the jungle. They had fought through thick and thin, survived firefights, and protected each other when everything seemed impossible. Leo had written a letter to Jason, telling him about the charity and how much it would mean to see veterans helped. Leo had no idea Jason would show up tonight. In the ring, Rex started his first exhibition fight against Tommy Carter, a local amateur boxer. Tommy looked nervous, but tried to stay brave. Rex danced around him, showing off for the cameras more than actually fighting. His punches often missed, and he moved more like a performer than a real fighter. Jason watched carefully. Rex was strong, yes, but he cared more about looking big and intimidating than being smart in a fight. Jason's trained eyes noticed everything. Between rounds, he saw Vinny Salvatore talking on the phone, pointing at tough-looking men in the audience. These men weren't regular fans. They moved like they were ready for trouble. Jason could tell they were more for controlling the crowd than for watching the fight. Rex ended his exhibition fight with a dramatic knockout punch, sending Tommy crashing to the canvas. The crowd cheered loudly. Rex posed over the boy while medics rushed to help him. Blood was under Tommy's head, but Rex continued flexing as if nothing mattered. Jason glanced at Leo. Leo squinted at Jason, trying to place him, but he couldn't figure it out. Jason gave a small nod, a quiet gesture only old friends and soldiers understood. The announcer boomed again. Thunder Kane is offering $10,000 to any man who can last 2 rounds with the heavyweight champion of the world. Ethan leaned toward his grandfather. Leo was counting medical bills again, over and over. They were stacking up. Motorized wheelchair repairs, physical therapy, and prescriptions. The money was not enough to cover everything. "I could try, Granddad," Ethan whispered. $10,000 would fix it all. Leo's voice was firm, strong like it always was. "Absolutely not. Look at that boy lying on the ground, Ethan. You don't know what you're doing. Stay back." But Ethan was already climbing into the ring. "I'll do it. I'll do it for you, Granddad." The crowd fell silent. This wasn't a trained fighter. It was a 19-year-old boy volunteering to face a champion. Rex's eyes sparkled with cruel amusement. "Kid, are you sure? I just knocked out a real fighter," he said, pointing toward Tommy, still lying on the mat. Leo wheeled closer, panic in his eyes. "Ethan, stop. You don't know the danger." But Ethan was brave. He set his jaw, remembering all the stories his grandfather had told him. Stories of courage, sacrifice, and protecting those who could not protect themselves. Jason Statham leaned forward slightly, watching with sharp eyes. This wasn't just a fight. It was a predator about to destroy someone for fun, and Jason could see exactly what was coming. Rex smirked at Ethan. "You don't have a chance, kid. I'll knock you out before you even know what happened." Ethan tightened his fists and shook his head. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm doing this for my granddad." Leo's hand shook. "Ethan, please don't do this." But it was too late. Ethan stood in the ring, facing Rex. The young boy was thin and smaller than Rex, but his eyes burned with determination. Rex circled him like a lion stalking prey, flexing and laughing at the boy's courage. The crowd watched, some cheering Rex, some worried for Ethan. The medic stayed close, ready to jump in if needed. Rex's bodyguards watched quietly, not expecting trouble, but prepared to intervene if the fight went badly. Ethan remembered all the lessons his grandfather had taught him. Lessons about courage, loyalty, and standing up when it was right, no matter the odds. He didn't have Rex's size or strength, but he had heart. Rex lunged first, throwing a punch that would have knocked out most men in one hit. Ethan ducked just in time, feeling the wind from the heavy punch. The crowd gasped. Rex laughed, thinking it was just luck. He tried again, faster this time, but Ethan moved quickly, dodging, weaving, and trying to keep his balance. Jason Statham stood up slowly. His eyes were steady, watching every move. He could see Rex's arrogance, how he relied on his size and power, not skill or honor. Jason knew the boy needed protection, but also that Rex would learn a lesson tonight. Ethan's arms were tired. His legs ached, but he didn't give up. Every time Rex threw a punch, Ethan remembered his grandfather's stories, his courage, and his love. This was for Leo, for the veterans, and for all the people Rex thought he could bully. Rex grew frustrated. "Kid, you're lucky," he yelled. "You can't beat me." But Ethan didn't back down. He stayed light on his feet, moving, dodging, and keeping his eyes on Rex. Sweat ran down his forehead, but his fist stayed up. The crowd was silent now, watching the unexpected battle. No one had seen a kid face a champion like this. Some people were scared, some amazed, and some just couldn't believe their eyes. Leo watched from his wheelchair, tears in his eyes. He wanted to run into the ring to save his grandson, but he remembered what courage truly meant. Ethan was showing it right there. Jason Statham smiled faintly. He stood quietly in the back, knowing it was time for Rex to learn something very important. Some men think strength is all that matters, but tonight, Rex would discover that courage, heart, and skill can be stronger than size and arrogance. Rex threw punch after punch, but Ethan kept moving. Each time he dodged, the crowd whispered, "How is he doing that?" Rex was starting to get angry, swinging harder, trying to end the fight quickly. Suddenly, Ethan feinted a punch and stepped to the side. Rex lunged forward, missed, and stumbled slightly. The crowd gasped. Ethan had learned something from watching and listening. Movement and awareness mattered more than strength. Leo cheered quietly from the back. "That's it, son. Keep moving. Don't let him hit you." Rex's face turned red with frustration. His muscles flexed, but they weren't enough. He had power, but Ethan had courage, quick thinking, and determination. Jason Statham leaned closer, his eyes calm and steady. He could see Rex was about to make a mistake, a big one, a mistake that would teach him why some men should never underestimate others. Ethan was tired, but he remembered his grandfather's words. Courage is not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about standing up when others expect you to fall. Ethan's fists were small, but his spirit was huge. Rex tried to grab him, but Ethan dodged. Rex stumbled again, losing balance. The audience held its breath. Could this small, young boy really continue against the mighty champion? Rex tried to act like he was going easy during the first round, but even his easy punches were strong enough to hurt most men badly. His jabs made Ethan's head snap back, and his punches to Ethan's body made him bend over like a folding chair. Ethan tried to fight back with all his courage, but it was like trying to punch a mountain. Every hit he threw barely even touched Rex, while Rex's punches landed like small hammers. Between rounds, Leo Vargas, Ethan's grandfather, was shaking with worry. He held the ropes tightly, begging the referee to stop the fight. "Please, he's my grandson. This is enough," Leo yelled. His voice shook with fear. Salvatore, a calm-looking man with a cigar curling smoke around his soft face, was standing at ringside. He looked around and said, "The crowd wants to see 2 full rounds. The kid signed up for 2 rounds. Leo gripped the ropes harder. "He's just a boy," he cried, his voice cracking. Salvatore turned away and said quietly, "Maybe the boy should have thought before stepping into a man's world." The bell rang for round 2. Rex stopped pretending to be gentle. His first punches flew fast and hard, and Ethan crashed into the ropes. Blood was running from his nose, and he was barely holding himself up. Rex didn't stop there. He threw an uppercut, a punch that lifted Ethan completely off his feet. He fell to the canvas, unconscious. The arena went silent. Jason Statham stood up. The scraping sound of his folding chair echoed loudly. Everyone's eyes were on him. The medics rushed to Ethan, who was slowly waking up but still dizzy. His head hurt, and blood was under his nose. His eyes could barely focus. Leo screamed from the side, "Ethan, stay with us." His wheelchair pushed against the ropes as far as it would go. Jason Statham walked down the aisle slowly, his boots making soft, measured sounds. People moved aside without being asked. There was something calm but strong in the way he walked. Jason reached the ring, while the medics helped Ethan, who was trying to sit up. His eyes were a little clearer, but he was still hurt. Leo grabbed Jason's hand. Jason Statham, is that really you?" Leo whispered, shocked and relieved. Jason nodded, but didn't take his eyes off Rex, who was still celebrating in the ring. "Good to see you, brother. You remember me?" Jason said, his voice calm and serious. I remember every man who watched my back, Leo replied, his hands trembling. How's the boy? Jason asked, looking at Ethan. Concussed, maybe worse. Jason, that animal up there didn't have to hit him so hard. Ethan was only trying to help with my medical bills, Leo explained, almost crying. Meanwhile, in the ring, Rex grabbed the microphone again. Does anybody else want some Thunder Cane? Who thinks they can handle the champion? Jason looked at Ethan, who was trying to sit up despite the medic's protests. Ethan's courage reminded Jason of soldiers he had known, good men who volunteered for dangerous missions to protect others. This boy had done the same thing, risking himself to help someone else. Without saying a word, Jason climbed through the ropes. At 83, he moved like a man half his age, with smooth, strong steps. I'll take that challenge, Jason said simply, his voice calm but full of power. Rex laughed loudly, looking at him. Seriously, Grandpa? You sure you don't want an autograph instead? Salvatore appeared again, whispering urgently in Rex's ear. His face had gone pale when he recognized Jason, but Rex waved him away. I don't care if he's Jason Statham, Bruce Lee, or Superman, Rex said. He's 83 years old. Old man, you better think about this. I just put a 19-year-old in the hospital. Jason stepped closer to Rex and spoke quietly, so only Rex could hear. That boy you just hurt, his grandfather is a war hero who served with me in Vietnam. You're going to pay his medical bills, and you're going to learn respect. Rex sneered, showing his gold teeth. Old man, the only thing I'm going to learn is how to collect Social Security from your unconscious body. Jason stepped back and removed his flannel shirt, showing his lean, strong body. Every muscle was sharp and defined, showing decades of martial arts training. Rex's smirk faded slightly. This was not just an old man. This was a living legend. Leo wheeled his chair closer. Show him what an old soldier can do, Jason. Jason looked at the referee, then at Rex. Ring the bell, he said calmly. The arena fell completely silent as the two fighters faced each other. It wasn't just a fight. It was brute strength versus wisdom, youth versus experience, a bully versus a protector. Rex bounced on his toes, getting ready to strike. Jason stood perfectly still, his hands at his sides, his blue eyes calm and focused. The bell rang. Rex charged forward like a freight train, throwing huge punches meant to end the fight immediately. His left hook could have hurt a smaller man badly, and his right cross flew with bone-crushing force. But Jason wasn't there. He didn't block or counter. He just moved out of the way. Rex's punches flew through the empty air. Jason flowed around the attacks like water around rocks. Rex threw 10 punches. Jason only took 3 steps. Rex's arms were tired. Jason remained calm. The crowd was amazed. They saw Rex's power wasted while Jason stayed cool and controlled. Between rounds, Rex's corner was in chaos. What's happening out there? Sal Romano shouted. He's making you look bad. The old man is running scared. Rex panted, sweat on his forehead. Next round, I'll corner him. Jason sat calmly on a folding chair Leo had wheeled over. He drank a small sip of water while Leo leaned close. He has no idea what he's gotten himself into, Leo whispered, amazed. He's about to learn, Jason replied quietly, eyes never leaving Rex. Round 2 began. Rex tried to use his size to corner Jason against the ropes, but Jason moved away from every punch like a ghost, barely touching the floor. Rex swung a huge haymaker that could have knocked Jason out, but Jason tapped Rex's bicep so fast it made Rex's arm go numb. Rex stopped mid-punch, shocked. Jason stepped back into a perfect martial arts stance. Now we begin, he said calmly. Rex realized he wasn't fighting an old man. He was fighting a master. Rex shook his arm to get the feeling back. The crowd gasped in excitement. This wasn't a boxing match anymore. It was a lesson in skill, a fight between power and wisdom. Rex shouted, "Get lucky once, that's all." He attacked with all his strength. But Jason showed the difference between a brawler and a martial artist. Every block became a deflection. Every deflection turned Rex's power against him. Rex tried a punch. Jason didn't just block it. He used Rex's momentum to make him stumble. Another punch became empty air. Jason used simple hip tosses to make Rex fall. Rex's size and strength, his biggest advantages, were now problems. Jason was showing how skill could beat raw power. "What are you doing to me?" Rex yelled, frustrated. Jason didn't answer. He used light strikes that made Rex's arms and muscles tingle. They were precise and careful. Jason wasn't trying to hurt him badly. Between rounds, Jason checked on Ethan. Ethan was sitting quietly with an ice pack. He gave Jason a thumbs up. Jason nodded at him, proud of the boy's courage. Leo wheeled closer to Jason's corner. "Remember what Salvatore has been doing to us veterans?" Jason's face became serious. Leo explained how veterans were being forced to bet their benefits on rigged fights. Those who couldn't pay had their benefits taken, and their families were threatened. Salvatore was using charity events to cheat people who had already given so much. Jason's jaw tightened. This fight was now about more than respect. It was about protecting the veterans. Round 3 began. Rex tried his best punches again, but Jason caught Rex's right punch and held his fist still. Rex tried to pull it away, but Jason held it firm. The crowd watched in amazement. Jason began to move with smooth precision, using Rex's size against him. He did little hip twists, knife hand blocks, and light pressure strikes that made Rex stumble, but did not hurt him. Each move taught Rex that fighting wasn't about hitting hard. It was about timing, control, and skill. Rex tried a big right hook. Jason shifted just enough, so it missed him completely. Rex tried a left hook, but Jason flowed around it, barely moving. Each time Rex swung, Jason was like water, moving around the attacks, never wasting energy. The arena was quiet except for the sounds of fists meeting the air and Rex's frustrated grunts. Jason's calm movements made Rex look clumsy. The more Rex fought, the more tired he became, while Jason stayed cool and strong. Between rounds, Leo checked on Ethan again. "He's watching too, Jason," Leo whispered. Ethan nodded, still giving a thumbs up. Jason's eyes burned with focus. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for Ethan, Leo, and every veteran who had been cheated. This was a fight for respect and justice. Round 4 began. Rex was desperate. He threw every big punch he could, trying to corner Jason. But Jason moved with perfect timing, using Rex's power against him. A hip twist here, a redirection there, and Rex would stumble or fall. His size and strength were useless against Jason's skill. The crowd was on its feet, watching the incredible display. Rex's anger grew. He had never been made to look so weak before. Jason didn't shout or get angry. He was calm, controlled, and precise. Every move was measured. Every punch was either avoided or redirected. The crowd gasped as the big, strong boxing champion, Rex, tried with all his might to pull his hand free from Jason's iron grip. Rex's face turned red, and sweat dripped down his forehead because Jason's hold was so strong he could not escape. Jason looked straight into Rex's eyes and said loudly so everyone could hear, "Being strong isn't about hitting hard. It's about knowing when not to hit." Then, with a calm but firm motion, Jason let go of Rex's hand. Rex blinked in surprise, staring at his own fist as if he had forgotten how to use it. The crowd murmured in confusion. No one had ever seen something like this happen in a boxing match before. Rex's usual confident self, sat down in his corner for the first time in his life, looking worried and unsure. His handlers, the people who usually told him what to do, looked equally lost. Jason's fighting style was not like any normal boxer's style. Rex had trained his whole life to fight in one way, but Jason did not follow those rules. Everything Rex knew about boxing seemed useless. Salvatore, Rex's boss and the man who arranged all these fights, paced nervously outside the ring. He made urgent phone calls while wiping sweat from his shiny face, even though the arena's air conditioning was on full blast. Jason stood tall, showing no signs of being tired. At 83 years old, he looked fresher and stronger than Rex, who was only 28. Round 4 began, and Rex seemed to have no plan. He abandoned boxing altogether. Instead of punching, he tried wrestling, grabbing Jason's legs to use his size to his advantage. But Jason moved with ease. He used joint locks and pressure points that Rex could not understand. Rex became more confused and more desperate with every failed move. The crowd gasped as Rex tried to use an illegal elbow, but Jason's movement turned into a beautiful dance-like display of footwork that made everyone clap. Even though Rex's actions were against the rules, the audience could not stop admiring Jason's skill. The referee kept warning Rex, but Salvatore waved his hands from ringside, signaling that the fight would continue no matter what. Rex then tried a low blow, but Jason moved his hip perfectly, making Rex miss entirely. Jason could have counterattacked, but he chose not to. Instead, he spun around Rex and tapped him on the shoulder to show how vulnerable he had become. "Fight like a man," Rex shouted, full of anger. "I am," Jason said calmly. "You should try it." While the fight continued, Jason noticed Salvatore's men moving quietly around the arena. They were not just watching the fight, they were controlling exits, standing near the lighting booth, and moving closer to the power controls. Several older veterans in the audience were approached by Salvatore's men. Money was exchanged. Threats were whispered. Elderly men, some wearing service caps, were being intimidated into silence. Jason realized that this fight was no longer just about boxing. It was about exposing a criminal operation. Rex, frustrated, grabbed the top rope and tried to choke Jason. That move would have been illegal in any normal fight. Jason responded with a perfect judo throw that sent Rex crashing to the floor hard enough to shake the ring. As Rex struggled to get up, Jason reached out his hand to help him stand. Rex's face showed confusion and humiliation. "Fighting dirty only makes you weak," Jason said softly, his voice calm and full of authority. Rex's response was a desperate roar of rage as he charged blindly forward. All his technique and training were forgotten, replaced by pure anger. Jason sidestepped easily, letting Rex crash into the corner turnbuckle with a loud thud. Rex untangled himself, his expensive haircut messed up, his face flushed with embarrassment, and he turned to face Jason again. At ringside, Leo, an older man in a wheelchair, gestured urgently to Jason. During the brief break between rounds, Leo whispered the full story of Salvatore's operation. "He loans money to disabled veterans for medical expenses," Leo said quickly. "And then he forces them to bet on rigged fights to pay back impossible interest rates. When they can't pay, his men threaten their families and take their benefits." Jason listened carefully, his eyes growing harder and more focused. He understood immediately. If he could defeat Rex in front of everyone, Leo's evidence would get the attention it deserved, exposing Salvatore's entire criminal network to the country. Jason nodded slowly, the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Round 5 began, and Jason fought more aggressively, but carefully, with surgical precision. Each move was like a work of art. He spun, kicked, and moved with balance and control. One spinning kick stopped just inches from Rex's head, and the wind from Jason's foot ruffled Rex's hair. The crowd gasped at the sight. Rex's corner had brought wooden boards, likely for a photo opportunity. Jason picked one up and, with a single knife hand strike, split it perfectly in half. The crack echoed through the arena like a gunshot. "That could have been your ribs," Jason said softly to Rex, dropping the pieces. Then Jason began targeting Rex's pressure points to create dramatic effects. A tap on Rex's neck caused his vision to blur. A strike on his shoulder made him lose balance. Every move was precise, calculated, and meant to demonstrate Jason's mastery of martial arts without causing permanent harm. "This is what happens when you prey on people who serve their country," Jason announced loudly, ensuring everyone could hear. Salvatore realized Jason knew about his criminal operation. He immediately pulled out his phone and made urgent calls, signaling his men to prepare for action. Jason performed a spinning heel kick that sent Rex's mouthpiece flying into the crowd. Rex spat blood, and every camera captured it. Salvatore's men tried to move through the crowd, taking cell phones and intimidating people, but the veterans in the audience refused to back down. Men in their 70s and 80s, some using canes or walkers, formed a protective barrier around families with cameras. They had survived real battles and were not going to be scared off by thugs. In the ring, Rex became completely unhinged. Sweat and blood streamed down his face as he yelled threats and threw wild punches with no control. "I'll kill you, old man," Rex screamed. But Jason continued to demonstrate perfect martial arts techniques, moving fluidly between karate, tang soo do, and judo. Every move was precise, textbook perfect, flowing from defense to offense like a balletic dance. Outside the ring, Salvatore's operation was collapsing. Leo wheeled his chair up to a thug, threatening a young mother trying to record the fight. "Leave her alone," Leo commanded with authority. The thug snarled at him. Suddenly, 3 other veterans surrounded the thug. Salvatore's intimidation tactics were failing spectacularly. Jason timed his moves to be most visible when cameras were rolling. He tapped Rex's pressure points to make him stumble, lose balance, or temporarily lose vision in one eye. Each strike was designed to show the difference between real martial arts and brute strength. Police sirens could be heard growing louder outside the arena. Leo's veteran friends had called for backup and brought proof of Salvatore's crimes. Rex, now nearly blind from Jason's strikes, grabbed a folding chair from ringside. Salvatore shouted from across the arena, "Finish this now. Do whatever it takes." Rex raised the chair over his head, trembling with rage and exhaustion. Jason's calm, patient teacher persona disappeared. He now looked like a warrior who had seen his opponent cross a line that could not be ignored. "Now you've crossed the line," Jason said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent arena. The crowd held its breath. Rex swung the steel chair down with all his strength. Jason's legendary roundhouse kick intercepted the chair mid-swing. The boot connected with the steel frame with a crack that sounded like thunder. The chair exploded in the air and crashed into the arena wall hard enough to leave a dent. The crowd erupted with amazement, cheering for Jason. Rex rushed forward again in blind rage. Jason moved with serious intensity, every technique executed with precision and devastating efficiency. A perfect sidekick stopped Rex's forward momentum completely, lifting him off his feet. A ridge-hand strike buckled Rex's knees without causing permanent damage. A spinning back fist snapped Rex's head around with controlled force, showing how much power Jason had held back. Jason flowed smoothly between karate, tang soo do, and judo techniques, switching from one style to another like a master painter switching brushes. Rex's size and strength became useless as Jason used physics and leverage to send him tumbling repeatedly. "What are you?" Rex gasped, struggling on his hands and knees. "Someone who learned that real strength protects people instead of hurting them," Jason replied, throwing canes across the ring with perfect technique. Police sirens grew louder outside. Salvatore's men were now in full retreat, but some still tried to reach the ring. The first thug who climbed through the ropes was sent flying by Jason's spinning heel kick. 2 more attacked at the same time, but Jason demonstrated why he was considered one of the greatest martial artists ever. A perfect judo throw sent one crashing through a ringside table. A knife hand strike dropped another instantly. A classical sidekick launched a third into the arena seats with enough force to clear 2 rows of chairs. The crowd cheered wildly. Jason had stopped Rex without causing permanent injury, and he had protected the veterans and families around him. Outside the ring, police began to move in, and Salvatore's criminal operation was finally collapsing under the pressure. Jason had shown everyone that real strength is about skill, control, and protecting the innocent, not just hitting hard or being bigger. The veterans around the arena helped people record the event safely. Leo wheeled himself back to his seat, exhausted but proud. Rex lay on the floor, humiliated and defeated, realizing that brute strength alone could not win against skill, control, and honor. Salvatore was caught in the chaos, making phone calls, trying to save himself, but his empire had been exposed. Jason stood in the center of the ring, calm and composed. The crowd erupted in applause, cheering for a man who had shown true martial arts mastery. He had defeated a champion, protected the innocent, and helped expose a criminal operation, all without losing his honor. Everyone in the arena understood something important that night. Real strength is not about hitting harder or being bigger. It is about protecting others, using skill wisely, and standing up against wrong, no matter the danger. Jason, the old man who had faced a lifetime of battles, had shown them all what true strength really means. During all the fighting, Jason stayed calm. He didn't look angry or mean. He wasn't yelling or screaming. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone for fun. He was just very skilled at protecting people who needed help. That's why he was there, to keep innocent people safe. Rex, the big champion, tried one last big punch. He gave it all the energy he had left, hoping maybe this time he could win. But Jason was ready. With one perfect roundhouse kick, Jason hit Rex right in the stomach. Rex didn't just fall down like someone tripping. He collapsed completely. His body had been hit in so many perfect spots that it couldn't move properly anymore. Every nerve, every muscle, every part of his body felt shut down. As the last of Salvatore's men fell, the police rushed into the arena. Detective Simone Carter led them. She was calm, smart, and very experienced. Jason helped Rex stand up gently, like he was helping a child who had fallen. Rex could barely move, but Jason supported him carefully. "This is what respect looks like," Jason said softly. "You protect people who can't protect themselves." Rex had never felt humble before. He had always thought he was the strongest and the smartest. Now, for the first time, he realized how wrong he had been. Tears ran down his face because he finally understood how much damage he had caused. Rex tried to crawl on the floor. He could barely balance, and his body felt strange because Jason had hit all the right pressure points. His eyes went blurry, and he couldn't tell which way was up. The strong champion who had seemed unstoppable now didn't know what was happening to his own body. Sweat and blood dripped from Rex's face as he tried to understand what had happened. His muscles didn't listen to his brain. It was like his brain and body weren't connected anymore. Every time he tried to move, his limbs felt heavy, as if they weren't part of him. Jason had been so precise with his attacks that Rex's nervous system was trying to reset itself. He wasn't unconscious, but he couldn't move properly. Salvatore, the big, rich, and mean boss, screamed at his men. His face was red with anger. He could see his criminal business falling apart. His fancy suit was soaked with sweat, and his hair was messy. Salvatore had never faced real fighting, and now he was terrified. He knew that if Rex lost, his whole criminal operation would be destroyed. The first bad guy to attack Jason was a huge man named Hector. Hector had scared many fighters before because of his size and strength. He was big and strong, and he walked like he owned the place. But Jason was ready. Before Hector could even get properly into the ring, Jason spun and kicked him in the chest. The sound was loud, like a baseball bat hitting meat. Hector flew backward, crashing into the audience seats. Chairs and folding tables went flying. People jumped out of the way, screaming. Hector landed unconscious, tangled in broken chairs and metal. He didn't move at all. Rex tried to fight again. He tried to use all the energy he had left. He had a little burst of adrenaline and lunged forward, hoping he could hit Jason. But Jason was ready. With another perfect roundhouse kick, Jason hit Rex right in the stomach again. The kick was perfect. Rex's body shut down even more. He was awake but couldn't move, like a computer that had stopped working. His brain wanted to tell his arms and legs what to do, but they didn't listen. Two more of Salvatore's men, Marco and S, tried to attack Jason together. Marco was the bigger brother. S was smaller but quick. They had always fought as a team and had never lost a fight before. But they had never fought anyone like Jason. Jason didn't panic. He didn't hurry. He stayed calm and moved like he always knew exactly what to do. Marco rushed forward, and Jason used Marco's own strength against him. He flipped Marco through a table. The table broke into pieces, with splinters flying everywhere. S tried to attack, while Jason seemed distracted, but Jason wasn't distracted at all. He struck S in the neck with a precise blow. S fell down immediately. His legs wouldn't work, and he collapsed. Another bad guy, desperate to impress Salvatore, tried to hit Jason with a metal folding chair. But Jason saw it. He didn't even flinch. He moved with perfect timing and kicked a man with his sidekick. The man flew across the ring and landed unconscious, surrounded by broken chairs. Throughout all this, Jason stayed calm. He didn't scream. He didn't punch angrily. He didn't kick anyone without reason. He was calm because he had trained for this his whole life. He knew exactly how to protect people without causing permanent damage. He didn't want revenge. He wanted justice. He wanted to protect innocent people who had already been hurt. When the last of Salvatore's men fell, police filled the arena. They ran to secure the criminals and make sure no one else could get hurt. Paramedics came to check on everyone who was injured. The sounds of handcuffs clicking shut mixed with radio chatter as the criminals were finally caught. Jason knelt beside Rex and helped him sit up gently. Even though Rex had done many bad things, Jason treated him with care. He didn't shout at him or hit him again. He treated him like a person who was hurt and needed help. This showed the difference between justice and revenge. "This is what respect looks like," Jason said quietly. "You protect those who can't protect themselves." Rex nodded. Tears ran down his face because he finally understood how wrong he had been. The fighting was over. The thunder had finally stopped. Detective Carter walked to the ring. She had been investigating these criminals for a long time. She finally saw her chance to catch them. She looked at Rex, the unconscious men, and Jason helping everyone. Around the arena, police were rounding up the remaining bad guys while paramedics helped the injured. Salvatore's criminal business, which had hurt veterans for months, was being taken apart piece by piece. Leo Vargas wheeled his chair close to the ring. He had a briefcase with important evidence. His hand shook a little, not because he was scared, but because he was excited to see justice. "I have everything you need to put Salvatore in jail for a long time," Leo said. Detective Carter respected Leo. She knew he was the kind of person who helped the police by gathering proof. "Mr. Vargas, I've been hoping someone would give us real evidence against these criminals. What do you have for me?" Leo opened his briefcase carefully. Inside were folders full of papers, recordings, and financial records. He had spent months gathering everything. He had taken photographs, written notes, and even worn a hidden microphone during meetings with Salvatore's men. This wasn't the work of a beginner. This was careful and smart work from someone who knew how to fight crime using proof and facts. "Salvatore has been running a gambling business that tricks disabled veterans," Leo explained. "He loans the money they can't pay back. Then he forces them to gamble with their disability checks. If they lose, they owe even more money. He also threatens their families. I risked my safety to get all this evidence." Jason stepped forward to tell what he saw. His reputation made his words very believable. "I saw Salvatore's men bullying veterans, collecting debts, and using this charity event to hide their crimes," Jason said clearly. "I watched as they threatened families, cheated the veterans, and tried to control everyone. I saw everything. This is the truth." Rex, still weak from the fight, spoke too. "I needed money to pay off my gambling debts," he said quietly. "Salvatore told me the veterans were easy targets. I never thought about how much we were hurting people who served our country." Rex told the police everything. He said how many fights had been fixed, how drugs had been used to control outcomes, and how corrupt officials had looked the other way. Rex admitted that his championship had been built on lies. Now, he was ready to give up everything to make things right. Detective Carter listened carefully. She felt a mix of relief and satisfaction. After months of investigation, the truth was finally coming out. The criminal operation that had hurt so many veterans was finally being destroyed. Jason stayed calm the whole time, even after everything. He didn't act like a hero showing off. He didn't brag about how strong he was. He just helped people. He helped Rex sit down. He helped the injured. And he made sure the criminals couldn't hurt anyone else. That's what real heroes do. Rex looked around and saw the chaos he had helped create. Broken chairs, injured men, police everywhere. And he realized that Jason had done all this without losing control, without getting angry, and without hurting anyone more than necessary. Rex felt ashamed. He had been so proud of his strength, but now he knew that strength without control could hurt innocent people. Leo Vargas carefully handed the folders of evidence to Detective Carter. She began looking through them. There were loan documents, financial statements, recordings of threats, and proof of illegal gambling. Every page told the story of how Salvatore had been cheating veterans. Leo had worked hard, risking himself every day, to make sure that justice could be done. "Thank you, Mr. Vargas," Detective Carter said. "This evidence will put Salvatore away for a long time. The veterans can finally be safe." Jason nodded. "It's not about winning or losing," he said. "It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. That's what matters most." Rex felt something new. He felt respect. He felt humility. He realized that true strength isn't just about being big or fast. True strength is about using your power to help, not hurt. He thought about all the veterans who had been hurt by Salvatore and by him. He promised himself that he would try to make things right, starting today. Detective Carter began taking notes as Jason, Leo, and Rex spoke. Every word, every fact was important. This was the moment when the criminals were finally caught, and the truth was being told. Every detail mattered for the prosecutors to build a strong case. Around the arena, paramedics helped anyone who was hurt. Police officers made sure everyone was safe, and that no one could run away. The criminals who had been threatening innocent people for months were finally being stopped. The veterans, the real heroes, could finally breathe easy. Jason knelt beside Rex one more time. "Remember," he said quietly, "it's never about hurting someone because you can. It's about protecting people because you should." Rex nodded. He felt the weight of his actions, but also the hope that he could change. He looked at Jason and saw not just a fighter, but a teacher, a protector, and a true hero. Leo Vargas wheeled his chair closer, his briefcase still open. "Everything is here," he said. "All the evidence, every document, every recording. You'll have everything you need to put Salvatore away." Detective Carter took the evidence carefully. She looked at Jason and Leo. She looked at Rex. She knew that this day would be remembered. It was a day when justice won, when courage and careful planning defeated greed and cruelty. And it was all because people like Jason and Leo chose to act, instead of turning away. Jason looked around the arena. The fighting was over. The criminals were caught. The veterans were safe. Rex, humbled and ashamed, was starting to understand what it really meant to be strong. Detective Carter was smiling just a little, feeling satisfied that the criminals couldn't hurt anyone anymore. Leo Vargas felt proud that his months of hard work had helped protect the innocent. It had been a long and difficult night. The arena had seen violence and fear, but it had also seen courage, skill, and justice. Jason had fought not for fame, not for revenge, but for the safety of others. Rex had learned humility. Salvatore and his men had been defeated, and the truth, at last, was being told. Everyone present knew that this night would change things forever. Jason had shown what real strength looks like. Leo had shown what careful planning and courage can do. Detective Carter had shown that persistence pays off. And Rex, for the first time, had truly understood what it means to respect and protect others. The arena, once filled with chaos and fear, was now filled with relief and quiet satisfaction. Police officers were carefully taking the criminals away, handcuffs clicking. Paramedics were checking the injured. Spectators, who had been scared moments before, were starting to calm down. And in the center of it all, Jason stood quietly, calm as ever, having done what needed to be done. The news reporters recorded every single moment when Rex confessed to his crimes. They wanted everyone across the country to see what he had done. This was not just a small, local problem. It was a big, serious crime. Veterans who had served their country had been hurt by greedy people, and now the government had to step in. They needed to investigate everything carefully and make sure the people responsible could not hurt anyone again. Ethan Vargas, even though he had a bump on his head from the fight, had recovered enough to walk carefully to the ring. He wanted to thank Jason Statham in person. His eyes were shining with happiness and understanding. He had learned a very important lesson about bravery, kindness, and what it really means to protect others. "Mr. Statham," Ethan said, speaking so everyone could hear, "what you did tonight wasn't just about stopping one bad guy or winning one fight. You showed everyone that someone still cares about doing what's right, even when it's dangerous and nobody notices." Salvatore, the man who had been cheating and doing bad things, was being taken away in handcuffs. His expensive suit was wrinkled, and his soft, smug face was twisted with anger. He tried one last time to scare everyone who had seen him do wrong things. "This isn't over, old man," he growled at Leo. "I've got friends who will remember this, and they'll come looking for you." But Jason stepped forward slowly and calmly. he said quietly, but with enough power to make Salvatore stop. "I don't think so." The promoter suddenly realized who he was threatening, and his scary attitude disappeared like morning mist. He had forgotten that he was facing someone who was brave, smart, and strong, not just in muscles, but in character. Salvatore's threats had no power here. Detective Carter came over and told Jason that his testimony, everything he had seen and heard, would be very important. It would help the police and federal investigators catch not only Salvatore and his helpers, but also the bigger criminals who had been taking advantage of veterans all across the country. This case would send a warning to anyone thinking about doing bad things. Finally, real justice was happening. After Salvatore was taken away, most of the people left the arena, but the veterans stayed close to Leo, who was sitting in his wheelchair near the ring. These men all understood what it meant to serve their country. They had risked their lives, and they respected each other deeply. They listened carefully as Leo told the story about Jason and the time they had spent together in the jungles of Vietnam. The older veterans nodded as Leo described battles and friendships formed under dangerous situations. They knew the kind of courage it took to survive and to trust others in life or death situations. The younger veterans listened too. They learned about loyalty, brotherhood, and values that were bigger than rank, age, or skin color. This was how the lessons of the military were passed down, from those who had lived them to those who were learning from them. Rex stood quietly at the edge of the group. He was moving slowly because of the injuries he had taken, but inside, he was changing. He was no longer full of arrogance and selfishness. He was listening, paying attention, and learning. For the first time in years, he was quiet, thoughtful, and humble. He was understanding that there was more to life than fame, money, or winning fights. He was learning the meaning of real honor. When Leo finished telling the story, Rex stepped forward. Everyone could see that his apology was genuine. The pride that had always defined him was gone. Now he looked like someone who had faced himself honestly and wanted to make things right. "Mr. Statham," Rex said quietly, his voice still hoarse from the fight, "I need to apologize. Not just to you, but to everyone in this building who served our country when it needed them the most." He turned to the veterans and spoke louder, his voice carrying across the room. "I've been calling myself a champion for years, but I didn't know what that word really meant. You men are the real champions. You fought for something bigger than yourselves, for values that mattered more than personal glory." The veterans listened without interruption. Rex took a deep breath and continued. "While you were sacrificing for your country, I was helping people cheat you. I took money to lose fights, used drugs to win other fights, and helped a system that was designed to take advantage of your financial struggles. I don't deserve to call myself a champion of anything." Jason looked at Rex and said calmly, "You're sorry, son, but these men have heard a lot of promises before. They need to see that you truly mean it." Rex nodded strongly. "I'm announcing my immediate retirement from professional boxing. Every dollar I make from now on, from fights, endorsements, or appearances, will go to help veterans. I want to give back to the people I hurt before. I want to help them the right way." Rex also explained everything about Salvatore's cheating. Salvatore had drugged his opponents and bribed officials to win fights unfairly. The championship Rex had won wasn't real. It had been built on lies. The big fight scheduled for the next month, which was supposed to be Rex's biggest payday, would have been based on the biggest lies he had ever told. Jason's victory did more than just win the fight. It freed Rex from a life that was destroying his soul, even though it had made him rich. For the first time, Rex could look at himself in the mirror without feeling shame or lying to himself. The results of the night began showing immediately. The prize money Rex had promised for Leo's medical bills was given to him, and Jason added his own donation to the cause. Rex added his endorsement money as well, tripling the total. Now, Leo's medical bills would be completely covered for years to come. Soon, more people heard about the fight and the donations and wanted to help. The Veteran Charity Fund, which had been struggling to pay for even the most basic needs, suddenly had enough money to help many more veterans. They could provide medical care, counseling, food, and other help for veterans who had served their country. Jason, Leo, and Rex stood together while photographers took pictures. It was a moment that would appear in newspapers across the country. It showed the hero, the veteran, and the man who had changed for the better, all standing together in support of the people who had served their country. Leo shook both men's hands firmly, showing what real brotherhood looked like. It wasn't about the uniform you wore or the rank you held. It was about choosing to stand up for what's right when it really mattered. Rex nodded, understanding for the first time what real strength meant. "Mr. Vargas," he said, "I promise you'll never have a reason to doubt my commitment again." Several young veterans came to Rex after the ceremony. They wanted to learn boxing the right way, focusing on discipline, respect, and control instead of anger, violence, and dominance. Rex immediately agreed to teach them. He wanted to show them that being strong wasn't just about fighting. It was about helping others, having self-control, and using strength for good. The transformation was complete. Thunder Rex, who had once been arrogant, selfish, and mean, had become Marcus Rex, a humble teacher who wanted to help the community he had once hurt. 1 week later, Jason visited Ethan in the hospital. Ethan's room was full of get-well cards from veterans across the country. The cards covered every table, the windowsills, and even the floor. Some were simple thank you notes. Others were long letters describing how Ethan's story and the fight had inspired them to be brave and kind. Ethan was sitting up in bed when Jason arrived. His eyes were bright, and he looked determined even though he was still recovering from his concussion. "Mr. Statham," Ethan said, trying to sit up straighter. "The doctors say I'll be completely better in a week or two. There's no permanent damage. I just learned a hard lesson about knowing my limits." Jason smiled and sat down in the chair. He relaxed, but looked very interested in what Ethan had to say. "Good to hear, son. But more importantly, how do you feel about everything that has happened since that night?" Ethan thought for a moment. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, protecting people who can't protect themselves. I still want to follow my grandfather into the military, but now I know that good intentions aren't enough. I want to do it right this time." Jason smiled proudly. "Smart thinking. Courage without preparation is just another word for recklessness. The military will teach you the skills you need, but it's good that you already understand the difference." Rex had already promised to teach Ethan proper boxing techniques once he recovered fully. Jason had offered to teach him martial arts, to give him both physical strength and mental discipline. Ethan would learn the difference between fighting and protecting, between real strength and violence. He would understand what it really meant to be brave. The effects of that night continued to spread far beyond what anyone expected. Leo's evidence led to the arrests of corrupt city officials in 3 counties. It also exposed a multi-state gambling ring that had been taking advantage of veterans in dozens of cities. Federal investigators took over the case, treating it as a serious organized crime problem rather than just simple cheating. People who had been hurt were getting help. People who had done wrong were learning to do right. Young veterans like Ethan had new teachers to guide them, not just in fighting, but in courage, discipline, and doing what's right. News crews kept covering the story. They showed how Rex had changed, how Jason had helped, and how Ethan had learned the difference between bravery and recklessness. Everyone who watched learned an important lesson about honesty, courage, and helping others. Rex also began working on his new boxing school. He wanted to teach discipline, respect, and self-control. He didn't want to produce fighters who only cared about winning or money. He wanted to teach young people to be strong in their minds, bodies, and hearts. Veterans would help teach, and the program would also give scholarships for those in need. Ethan got to visit the school sometimes. He practiced martial arts with Jason and boxing with Rex. He was learning that protecting others was more important than winning fights. He also learned that strength without kindness could be dangerous. The night of the fight had started as a battle between good and bad, but by the end, it had created something far bigger. A community of people who supported one another, who stood up for what was right, and who wanted to make the world better. Even Rex, who had once been selfish and cruel, had found a new purpose. He was no longer Thunder Rex, the destroyer. He had become Marcus Rex, the teacher, mentor, and protector. He had learned that true strength came from helping others, being honest, and using your talents to make the world a better place. The veterans felt proud of what had happened. They had witnessed justice. They had seen a man change for the better. They had learned lessons about courage, loyalty, and standing up for what is right. And Ethan had seen the example of true heroes, people who used their strength, skill, and courage for the good of others. Jason, Rex, and Leo had become a symbol of hope. Their story showed that even when bad people do bad things, there is a way to fix the harm. It takes courage, honesty, and hard work. It takes standing up for what is right, even when it is scary or difficult. The donations continued to arrive. More veterans got help. The Veteran Charity Fund was able to expand programs for counseling, housing, and health care. Families of veterans also received support. Communities started working together. Young people were inspired to help veterans. Rex's boxing school opened successfully. Veterans volunteered to teach. Jason taught martial arts, and the program became famous for building strong, disciplined, and kind young people. Ethan continued to visit, learning every day. He wanted to become a good soldier someday, and he now understood that being brave meant being smart, prepared, and compassionate. The story of that night, the fight, the confession, the apology, the donations, and the new school spread across the country. People learned that change was possible. Even someone who had done many wrong things could make up for them by helping others. The night had started with anger, cheating, and danger, but it ended with hope, justice, and friendship. Veterans, young people, and the community all learned a lesson about courage, honor, and doing what is right. The legacy of that night would last for years. Veterans were helped. Young people learned how to be brave in the right way. Rex had changed his life forever, and Jason had shown everyone what a true hero looked like. Not just someone who fights, but someone who protects, teaches, and inspires others. Even after the arena emptied, the story continued. People who had been inspired shared it with friends and family. Veterans who had been hurting felt hope again. And young people, like Ethan, began learning that real strength comes with responsibility, kindness, and courage. The fight had ended, but the real work had just begun. The community, the veterans, Rex, Ethan, Leo, and Jason continued to grow stronger together. They had learned that standing up for what is right, helping those in need, and being honest and humble could change lives. And that night, they had all been a part of something very special, something that would be remembered for a long, long time. The charity fund had received donations from all over the country after a video of the fight went viral on social media. Big companies were touched by the story of veterans helping each other, so they gave a lot of money. The fund grew from just a few $1,000s to more than $500,000 in only 1 week. Kane, keeping his promise, started the Leo Vargas Foundation for Disabled Veterans with $2 million, money he had earned from his fake championship but couldn't keep in good conscience. He was also working with the state boxing groups to officially cancel his fake title. Jason found out that many young veterans had started taking martial arts classes after watching the fight video. Dojos in Texas and nearby states saw more veterans signing up, wanting to get fit and feel peaceful through disciplined training. The reporters keep asking me how it felt to fight you in the ring, Rex said during his daily visit to check on Ethan's recovery. I tell them it felt like being a child again, learning that everything I thought I knew was wrong and having someone patient enough to teach me better. Leo laughed from his new motorized wheelchair, which a medical equipment company had donated after being inspired by his story. That's what real teaching is, Marcus, he said. Sometimes a man has to be humbled completely before he can truly learn. Later that afternoon, Jason and Leo sat in the hospital cafeteria, drinking coffee and watching news about Salvatore's trial. The case was going well, with many victims coming forward to tell how they were treated unfairly. Jason, Leo said quietly, stirring his coffee slowly. Do you ever get tired of fighting other people's battles? You could have gone home safe that night. Jason looked around and saw a young nurse helping an old veteran with his walker. The soldier moved slowly but proudly, accepting help without giving up his independence. Jason thought carefully before answering. I learned long ago that a man's character isn't about how hard he can hit or how many fights he wins, Jason said. It's about how often he chooses to protect someone who can't protect themselves, even when no one will reward him for it. Leo nodded, understanding. Some fights are worth having, and some principles are worth defending, no matter the cost. The two men sat quietly, watching the world go on around them, knowing they had made it a little better. 2 weeks after the fight that changed everything, Jason went to a ceremony at the local VFW hall to honor what had happened. The hall was full of veterans and their families, from people who had fought in World War II to recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Red, white, and blue decorations hung everywhere, and American flags covered the ceiling like a patriotic canopy. The walls had photos of fallen heroes, young faces frozen in time, showing the sacrifices that gave meaning to their community. This was sacred ground, where respect was earned and freely given. Ethan took the podium, confident despite his young age, and spoke to the crowd. 2 weeks ago, I thought courage meant being ready to fight anyone, anywhere, for any reason. Mr. Statham taught me that real courage means protecting people who can't protect themselves, even when it's dangerous and thankless. The scholarship he received was paid entirely by donations, inspired by the viral fight video. Big companies that heard the story gave a lot to make sure Ethan could go to school without worrying about money. Rex spoke next, looking healthier and more at peace than he had in years. His fancy suits were gone, replaced by simple clothes. His gold jewelry was gone too. Most importantly, his arrogant attitude was replaced by true humility. I spent years thinking strength meant being brutal and success meant dominating others, Rex said. Mr. Statham showed me that real power is making people feel safe, not afraid. Real champions lift people up instead of tearing them down. Rex's change had become a national news story, inspiring other athletes to think about how they could help people and be better. His foundation had already started helping disabled veterans in 12 states and planned to grow across the country. Leo was honored for his investigative work and lifetime of service to veterans. His new motorized wheelchair would make his life easier and comfortable, and the lifetime medical care he received would stop him from worrying about money again. When the ceremony ended with the national anthem, Jason quietly tried to leave to avoid interviews and photos. But Leo gently touched his arm. "Not so fast, old friend," Leo said with the warm authority of someone who had earned it. "You can't leave without saying goodbye properly." The two soldiers shared a silent moment, understanding each other without words. They had both served their country in different ways and answered the call when their community needed them most. Their bond was forged in combat but strengthened by shared values. Leo took out two special things. First, a carefully folded American flag that had flown over the Capitol building for their army unit. Second, a faded black and white photo of their platoon in the Vietnamese jungle during the summer of 1968. Young faces stared back at them, boys who had become men under enemy fire, carrying those lessons for life. Some had never come home, and others had spent decades trying to forget the war. "Alpha Company, 1968, Leo said softly. "We watched each other's backs then, and we're still doing it now. Take these, Jason. Remember, some things are worth fighting for." Jason took both gifts with deep emotion. He put the photo in his shirt pocket, close to his heart, and carefully placed the flag in his truck's glove compartment. As he drove away, he looked back at the VFW hall filled with light, laughter, and the community taking care of each other. He started the engine with a satisfied smile, the hall glowing behind him. The radio played a news update saying veteran suicide rates were dropping after new funding for support and mental health programs. The fight had done more than anyone expected, helping thousands of veterans for years to come. The last image was Jason's pickup truck driving into the sunset, the American flag sticker on the rear window shining in the golden light. Heroes still walked among us, ready to act when justice was needed. And for those who understood what really mattered, that was enough to sleep peacefully, knowing that courage and goodness could still win. Up next, there were two more amazing stories waiting to be seen. Just click the picture to watch. And if you like this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.